squatting has been a huge issue in big blue states, in California, specifically in New York. Governor DeSantis recently really quickly got through a bill through the Florida legislation saying, hey, yeah, this is how we're going to handle squatting. Not the same in California. There was a story about a week ago that has taken some fantastic twists and turns. I don't mean fantastic in a good way. I mean, what in the world is going on? About 50 campers, RV campers, were taken over by homeless people who are now effectively squatting. Those campers were worth about $40,000 to $50,000. The new wrinkle, however, according to CBS, is the RVs were parked on a lot that they didn't own, and in effect, they were squatting. So the squatters were squatting in RVs that were also squatting. Mike, you look at California and you see the chaos going on, but you don't see that in other states. You don't see squatters squatting on squatters, which is crazy. What are the California, the sane folks, those of us here in California, what do we have to do to make sure that our state, doesn't go even further into Crazyville?
Well, it's interesting because in New York, where I'm originally from, there was this massive story about the fact that people were like squatting in homes when people would go on vacation. And then they would come back from vacation and they would realize their home has been broken into and they couldn't use force to get out the squatter. If they did, then they would be arrested. There was multiple examples of that. It was like a very strange trend happening in New York over the last year. So when I see what's going on in California, when I see the squatters are now squatting on the squatters, it's like, well, what are they going to do to fix it? Elect Kamala Harris as the governor? I mean, she's winning in all the polls. So at this point, it's like we kind of said it in the last bit, and now in this, it's like, how bad does it need to get for it to just spectacularly implode? I think if there's one more layer of squatting on squatting on squatting, I guess the whole system breaks. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Mike, I really resent the fact that you reminded me that Kamala Harris could be the next governor of California. Let's pray that doesn't happen. Savannah, as somebody who travels all over the place, can you kind of describe the differences from when you go to, let's just say, Oklahoma or even Texas, or California or New York? How does it look comparatively when you're going to these places?
That is a great question, Jobob. And I think that that's why I initially got red pilled, right? Because I went to San Francisco, I was walking around and I was like, so is it just normal for people to be having drug overdoses in the middle of the day at 3 p.m.? And also, why is that guy shooting up fentanyl in front of the cops? Like, is this just normal behavior? And it very much is in California. And, it's funny because Mike just said, what's the extra layer to this? The extra layer would be an illegal immigrant squatter squatting. and that's something that happened too, Jobob, right? Let's not forget. And this guy just got deported, thank goodness. But you had illegal immigrants for a period of time in the United States utilizing TikTok to teach people how to properly squat so they don't get evicted, or I don't know. The fact that squatting rights is even a term in the United States of America, it's like, okay, we clearly need to get things cleaned up. California in itself is a failed state, and the squatting on top of the squatting is a clear example of this, because good Lord, what are we doing, California?
Unfortunately, I can almost guarantee that of those 50 RVs that got taken over, there is an illegal who's squatting in America, squatting in the RV, it's squatting on the private land, and it just goes downhill from there. Speaking of things going downhill, which I thought this story was fascinating. I'm not sure if people caught it much, but there was a big high-end brothel in the Boston area. Now, putting the whole idea of sex work aside, obviously I have some opinions on whether or not people should be able to do that. It's really interesting as this goes down the prosecutorial path. So the Boston Johns, the men who are going to this brothel and participating and paying for those sorts of services, their names are all going to be released. However, a similar brothel, this is according to the Wall Street Journal, a brothel in the D.C. area that operated in the same way just outside Washington, D.C., Virginia prosecutors said they are going to decline to press charges against the Johns that went there. In other words, the local D.C. area that may include a bunch of politicians. Now, we're not going to make those things public. That's nobody's business. Mike, just your thoughts on this overall.
Well, I love that these, brothels are getting busted in the cities that you would exactly think they would get busted in, okay? They're not busting up the big brothel operations in Texas or the free state of Florida. It's in Washington, D.C. and Boston. You know, Boston famously was having their program rolled out where they were trying to match up homeowners to take in an illegal immigrant as like a foster care thing. So they were focusing on that while these, brothels are sprouting up. Now, it's very interesting how they don't want to release the names of the people in Virginia. It just shows that when Democrats are in control, it's just lawless. They just rule with whatever they want. We don't want to release the names. We don't have to release the names. Why isn't it an equal standard of application for everywhere? If you're going to release it in one instance, you should do it in the other, right? No, I have a feeling a lot of Democrats, probably a couple of Republicans are on that list, Jobob, and those people are putting some weight on the scale not to get it out there. Man, I would love to know. I think a couple Democrats, couple Republicans, uniparty. I don't want to name names, but I think maybe we can guess a couple.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's it seems really fishy that the DC crowd is not going to have their names released. Sav, in the couple seconds that we've got left, seems like it could be a pretty big opportunity for people to blackmail high-level politicians, especially in the DC area. I won't say the thing that I was gonna say, but I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, politicians being blackmailed, that's a first, isn't it? Oh my goodness. I think this is one of many, 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 many examples of how this can happen. And yeah, I'm glad that this issue is getting cleaned up. And it's just funny, right? They call it the swamp for a reason. And I think this is why. And it's just funny to see them protect their own by not releasing these names. So yeah, politicians getting blackmailed, that's nothing new. And here's one of multiple examples of how that happens, friends.
Yeah, wild story, and we'll keep up with how that ends up panning out.